welcome back to Mark Carney's book club. This is part 2 of chapter 13, and we are just in the middle of a list of 6 steps that leaders can take to regain trust. The first 3 were improve transparency, establishing the facts, and embracing uncertainty. The 4th step would be better communications. He says often experts use inaccessible language when they speak. A study by the Bank of England staff found that the language they used in the publications required a level of reading comprehension, making them accessible to only 1 in 5 people. The 5th step is to stay in your lane. Leaders need to be exceptionally careful not to speak or act on things that aren't their responsibility. The 6th step he gives for leaders who want to regain trust is to listen to all sides. Within an organization, this is the heart of participative leadership. When you engage widely, you will find some sharp, firmly held, but often lightly researched differences of opinion about fundamental issues. As NYU professor Jonathan Haidt argues, this is in part because humans are prone to groupish righteousness when it comes to how people reach moral judgments about important issues. This tendency is exacerbated by social media, which provides the ability to communicate exclusively among the like-minded. Making decisions by seeing the world from the perspective of others can be messy and time-consuming, but it is essential. Leadership increasingly comes in forging consensus, not preempting conclusions. Arguably, we need such inclusive processes in all parts of society more than ever. All of us as individuals have a responsibility to be more open and to engage respectfully with different views if we want constructive political debates and to make progress on important issues. Next, he's going to talk about what leaders do. And of all the things leaders do, the 3 that are the most important is 1, finding and developing the right people, 2, setting priorities, and 3, catalyzing action. COVID has accelerated another way to increasing diversity by expanding remote working, and he notes that it's important to ensure the talent pool isn't just geographically diverse. Christine Lagarde told me when she became head of the IMF, there was tremendous diversity at the fund, with over 150 nationalities. The only problem was they all had a PhD in economics from MIT. For leaders, having the right people also means being able to draw on trusted outside perspectives such as an external advisory board or informal contacts with other leaders. I was fortunate that as governor, I could regularly share experiences with a wide range of leaders in diverse fields. Of these, the most important sounding boards were my fellow central bankers. In this circle of trust, we had regular, frank discussions of issues that we either didn't understand but couldn't admit as much publicly, or that were particularly sensitive. On priority setting, he says that leaders should set ambitious priorities, but not ambitious for themselves, rather ambitious for the organization. Ambition must be grounded in the purpose of the organization. So run towards the sound of gunfire, seek to solve your client's biggest problems, take on complex situations, set clear agendas for resolving them, and get on them fast. In order to catalyze action, the leader must be fully and visibly committed before devolving power to fellow colleagues. In a quote often attributed to Teddy Roosevelt, the best executive is the one who has enough sense to pick good people to do what the leader wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it. The attributes of value-based leadership are purpose, perspective, clarity, competence, and humility. So he'll then go on to expand on each one. The first attribute of values-based leadership is purpose. So purpose is what an organization stands for, why it does what it does, and what it should be trusted to deliver. The leader's job is to ensure the purpose of their organization is always present and anchors its goals, values, and strategy. Like diversity, purpose is not a nice to have. True understanding of purpose means always remembering that leaders are stewards of the purpose of their organizations. In this sense, leadership is the acceptance of responsibility rather than the assumption of power. True leadership is not an end in itself, but rather a means to accomplishing a worthwhile goal. The second attribute is perspective. Consistent with purposeful ambition, leaders must assess the landscape to determine how their organization can plan the future. Note the distinction from planning for the future. Ambitious leadership means helping to shape the future rather than just reacting to it. Organizations need both to be resilient against storms and to make the weather. The COVID crisis teaches us that we are all in the same storm, but not necessarily in the same boat. That we need to act as interdependent community, not as independent individuals. Can anyone unmeet their neighbor? Once workers are revealed to be essential, can our value of them be the same? Such a change in perspective is possible when companies engage with all their stakeholders and understand their needs, hopes, and fears. Or if we strive to improve the common good of society, so it is only as successful as the most vulnerable, rather than seek the greatest prosperity of the greatest number, which can leave many behind. Third essential quality of values-based leadership is clarity, and clarity starts with clarity of mind and sound judgment that arise from emotional awareness and control. Like many others, I have found the practices of meditation and the daily examine to be effective disciplines for a more contemplative approach to life and, as a consequence, leadership. That is to say, I find them effective when I practice them, and I notice their absence once the errors and misunderstandings pile up after I determine that I am too busy, a stitch in time. Leadership always has an element of power, even when it is grounded solely in the powers of persuasion. But the quest for power over others quickly becomes dangerous, especially if it is divorced from the moral authority that effective leaders require. Leaders need to renounce power for its own sake and discern the power of service. The daily practice of meditation is a simple way to realize this paradox, letting go of power over others in order to use it in service of others. Part of a leader's job is to absorb the stress so that the rest of the organization can focus. An essential part of clarity is to simplify the complicated, to reduce complex problems to their essentials, and then communicate them to your team so that they can be addressed. Say it straight, say it simply, say it over. Fourth essential quality for values-based leadership is competence. Competence doesn't mean getting everything right, but it is important to get more right than wrong. Strategy is an important part of leadership, but execution is vital. You need to be able to do what you intend, and your colleagues will remember your deeds more than your words. The leadership expert Veronica Hope Haley puts it simply: you won't be trusted if you are not competent, and you won't be competent unless you get hard decisions more right than wrong. Leaders must have the ability to be quiet and listen, to recognize that they do not have the right answer. By doing so, they are better able to transfer leadership from one situation to another. The fifth quality is humility. Good leaders combine personal humility, self-knowledge, and the ability to learn. That means admitting mistakes, seeking and accepting feedback, and sharing the lessons. When leaders become overconfident or turn to writing books, they stop learning. Some lessons he's learned by making mistakes are: it's important to admit when you don't know something, especially in finance. It pays to ask what could go wrong, even if steps have been taken to make bad outcomes less likely. And it's good practice to regularly review your decisions and compare those assumptions to new information received before taking a fresh decision. This leans against confirmation bias and promotes continuous learning. We're going to finish up humility next in part 3, as well as finish up this chapter. So stay tuned for more and let me know what you think so far.